It's just gone lunchtime. This is All Angles here on eNCA. Good afternoon. I'm Mashele. It is that time of the day when we give you an update on how far some of the stories we've been following up for you today have advanced. Here's your lunchtime update. Our reporters are out and about, bringing you the latest on today's top stories. I am joined by Heidi Giokos in our Johannesburg studios. Theordor Mashele is out in Pretoria, and Dasen Thathiah is on the KZN South Coast. Heidi, let me start with you. City Power is obviously not backing down in its quest to disconnect defaulting customers and illegal connections. What did they discover in the south of Joburg today?
Yes, Mashele, so we do understand that about 1,500 homes, specifically in Naturena, south of Johannesburg, are defaulting and are not paying City Power the services that they render, so for electricity that they consume. Today, City Power decided to embark on an aggressive activity and cut off in that area, and we do know that a number of houses were inaccessible. They were unable to access the homes because many people are at work, so they decided to cut off a number of to actually cut off the entire street, causing a lot of frustration for residents. Residents are accusing City Power of being disingenuous, for ambushing the community and not having a thorough discussion. The community believes that City Power is doing this so that the community is forced to install these new smart electricity meters. The community is rejecting this and saying that they do not want these meters because they believe that these meters are nothing but corrupt and overcharge residents for electricity. City Power, however, has refuted this and said that this is not the actual truth, and they feel as though the area, Naturena specifically, owes about 12 million rand, and the only way that they can actually get the money back is to cut off the electricity. We do know that, as I mentioned, about 1,500 households owe City Power, and City Power says the only way that they can do this is by cutting off. It was a rather tense and volatile environment, and this is why you have so many JMPD officials and SAPs joining City Power officials, because you have residents that basically push back and say you will not cut off our electricity. But City Power decided to do this in about 2 specific areas within Naturena, and they then decided to stop with their operations as things were actually getting out of hand. Let's listen to what the spokesperson for City Power, Isaac Mangena, had to say to us earlier.
The area of Naturena is one of those affluent areas that is refusing to basically pay for electricity. You've got residents that are, actually, you can see it's like double stories and so forth, and they don't pay for electricity. So as part of our aggressive revenue collection drive, we decided to target this area so that we can basically start forcing them to do what is right, which is basically to pay for electricity. We've got about 3,000 prepaid meters across Naturena, and only about half of those are basically vending. The rest are not vending, and that's why we basically decided to target this area. The prepaid meters, we're looking at about 27 million rands annually that we're basically losing because of those. And remember, this is the area that we basically invested in the past. Just a few months ago, we basically installed new line. We normalized the electricity infrastructure here, and it costed about 9 million rands. And the agreement that we had with the community at that time was basically to say they will basically allow City Power to move in and ensure that we basically normalize and also put in meters for those who do not have smart meters. So, and they refused for that to happen, and that's why we basically came through with law enforcement agencies so that we can basically force these residents to pay for electricity.
Theo, let me come to you. In the city of Tshwane, of course, the standoff between the city and SAMWU-affiliated workers continues. This is despite the city securing a permanent interdict against striking workers. Many are yet to return, right, Theo?
Yes, indeed, Mashele. Today we caught up with the chairperson for SAMWU, Mr. Mathabata, and there seems to be a back and forth as to who is actually responsible for the workers not being at work, since SAMU kind of like they saying they are not on strike, but then that leaves the question of then why are the city workers not at work? Because right now I'm in Atteridgeville, and as you can see that side, that is one of the corners in which it has turned into now a dumping area. And if you look up from there, there's a grilled chicken shop there that is currently closed. But you could just ask yourself, how would people manage to serve food at a place like this? So it does seem like, although there's a back and forth as to who's responsible for this, the people are actually bearing the brunt. I am with some residents here of Atteridgeville that I'm just going to speak to about how exactly they are still being affected by this. Sir, thank you for speaking to us. How exactly, as a community member, are you affected by these corners looking like this?
First of all, I would like to greet everybody. Yeah, on the moment, everybody in our location is not happy about what we see now. There's a lot of things that have been thrown anyway because of lack of service that municipality is giving to us. And now they're busy telling people to come and pay rent. But I don't know for reason why, because they're not collecting waste, they're not giving us water, and there's always what we call load shedding. So I believe in no work, no pay, and no work, no pay, and no service, no
pay.
No pay.
So that's the community there saying they're not willing to pay rates because there are no services rendered. But I'm just going to throw back to what Mr. Mathabatha has to say earlier on about the situation.
SAMU is not on strike. I think it's DA which is on strike, because the workers want a tool of trade to go and do the work. And the DA is holding the resources. They don't want to give us the tool of trade to go and do the work, so we are not on strike. In the municipality, we have two trade unions. It's SAMU, IMATU, and we've got those members who are not affiliating to any union. So what the city is saying all the time, that SAMU is on strike, we don't know where they get that thing from, because myself, as the chair of SAMU region in Tshwane, I'm not on strike, and I don't know what they are talking about. So the workers wanted their 3.5 salary increase. They wanted their 4.5 salary increase, which is in the main collective, which is in the collective agreement, which parties entered into. This municipality was represented by SALGA, and then there was that agreement that workers must be paid. So nobody is on strike. I'm speaking on behalf of SAMU.
All right, let's take you to KZN. This is where we find Dasen. Dasen, businesses and homeowners in KZN's coastal areas have started with mop-up operations and counting the cost of this weekend's damage. Tell us about the extent of the damage. What have you seen?
Well, Maseko, here at Marina Beach, I can tell you it's actually fascinating just looking at the picture behind me at the moment and how calm things are now. You know, we got a real sense of how far that water had traveled on Sunday. That's when the wave hit. I think probably the worst hit was the Mariners Seafood Restaurant, which is just off to my left now. This is where there were patrons gathered on Sunday to watch the rugby. The water came in. So by all accounts that we've heard, there were warning signs, so to speak. You know, the water was edging quite close, but because this has happened before, no one there really panicked. And when the water eventually came over, it was really horrific for everyone that was there. There were several people that were injured as well, including a child, and there was also an elderly woman that was hurt on her leg. Some of the patrons that were there were telling us the stories of how they got washed meters away from where they were sitting, some of them ending up in the toilets, which is on the other side of that building. If you look at the front of the building, you'll see that there's even concrete there's a concrete table and chairs that's there. That's been ripped apart. The sandbags that line the restaurant, 250 kgs each. The owner telling us that that was just thrown up in the air and it ended up inside the restaurant. So it gives you an idea of how powerful that is. But it's going to cost a lot of money for them to get this restaurant back. And that's even if it does reopen, because right now there is a discussion that's taking place between the owners and the municipality around the renewal of the lease. So simply put, the owner says, can he afford to put in a few million rand into this, not knowing if he has a long-term lease? So that's something that needs to be decided. But it is an attraction here in this part of the KZN South Coast. So hopefully that's something that will be resolved soon. Let's listen to part of that conversation that I had with John Capel. He's the owner of the Mariners Seafood Restaurant.
We knew that the surf was quite big, and we were expecting high tides, but we weren't expecting anything that bad. We've had high tides, high spring tides in the past, and it's often lapped up to the bank, but it's never been. I've owned the restaurant for 5 years, and I've never known it as bad as that. I've never seen a surf that big in my life. I've lived on the coast all my life, never seen it so big. So it was, it was very scary at that time. But like you said, luckily we weren't too busy. Otherwise, I think there would have been some loss of life for sure. I'd love to open up the restaurant again. We've got December season around the corner, which is our main season. Living on the south coast, that's when you make your money in December, holiday time. But obviously it's going to cost a lot of money to get up and running. So we've got time is against us. And the other issue is that we don't have a long-term lease from the municipality. So we're waiting for feedback from the municipality to see if they're going to issue us a long-term lease. I would be crazy to reinvest in the restaurant without a long-term lease. So, it's a waiting game at the moment, unfortunately.
All right, that was your eNCA lunchtime update from all angles with reporters Dasen, Thathiah, Theordor, Mashele and Heidi Giokos. Thank you, team. Let's leave it there for now.